here's a story from the BBC in a podcast, the BBC World News. It's about wastewater and the interesting things that they can discover.
Hello, this is the Global News podcast from the BBC World Service, with reports and analysis from across the world. The latest news 7 days a week. BBC World Service podcasts are supported by advertising.
As the UK gets ready to start lifting COVID restrictions, monitoring local outbreaks for a country that has seen more than 125,000 deaths will be ever more important. Sewage can play a role in that. A pilot study has shown how taking samples of it can provide a reliable early warning of spikes in infection, giving the National Health Service and the government valuable information. Tom Fielden went to the south of England to investigate.
So basically we're at the crude sample point, Stowhill Copse.
It may sound like a bucolic, babbling brook, but this is the main sewage outflow from the city of Southampton as it arrives at Southern Water's Stowhill Copse water treatment works in Marchwood. And it's a pretty grim sight, to be honest. I mean, you can see all sorts in there.
Yeah, it's very dark.
It's a sort of sludgy, gloopy, dark brown with fragments of half-dissolved loo paper in it as it goes through this sluice gate.
Yeah, that's the beauty of crude, isn't it?
Yeah.
You just get all sorts coming through, all sorts.
With me is Keith Bailey, the sampling team leader for Hampshire and the Isle of Wight. And Keith, we're going to take a sample.
This machine here is what we use to take the 24-hour random samples for the COVID sampling. So now we have the container there. Put a lid on that and make sure the sample itself has a good mix-up.
You're giving it a thorough shake.
Give it a thorough shake. And that's got a good true reflection of what's gone into the machine in the last 24 hours.
The sewage comes through that door there, yeah?
The Southampton samples and others from more than 90 treatment plants involved in the National Wastewater Epidemiology Surveillance Programme are delivered here to the Environment Agency's Starcross laboratory at Dawlish near Exeter.
They're registered, they're added onto one of these wonderful trolleys that you can see here, and then zoom up to Jonathan and his team so they can start processing them as soon as possible.
OK, so you can see Jack there is opening the centrifuge tube.
Jonathan is molecular biologist Dr. Jonathan Porter.
So a sample comes in, we concentrate it, we extract the nucleic acids from that concentrate, and we then measure the coronavirus-specific genes within that nucleic acid extraction.
Because infected individuals shed virus in their faeces, telltale biomarkers for COVID-19 turn up in raw sewage. Data from those samples has been used to spot spikes in transmission as much as a week before the signal turns up in the pattern of conventional PCR testing, giving NHS Test and Trace vital early warning of an outbreak.
What we're doing in the wastewater programme is that we can actually get an aggregate or a holistic view of what COVID prevalence might look like within the community.
It's information that doesn't depend on people coming forward for a test or volunteering details about close contacts, and it can be used to target local surge testing much more accurately.
And we can do that whether people are symptomatic or asymptomatic, and we can do that whether people have been tested or not been tested.
The project's being run by the Joint Biosecurity Centre. Deputy Director Dr. Andrew Ngeli.
And we can detect COVID in those wastewater samples to a level that equates to about 1 case in 10,000. So if we imagine a town where there were 10,000 people living in that town and one of them might have COVID and might not know they have COVID because they're not symptomatic, we would be able to detect that in the wastewater samples that we're drawing.
In the early days, we used wastewater really as an early warning system, where it was emerging in a way, the hotspots.
But a sewage sample can tell you much more than simply whether COVID is present or not.
On top of that, we're also sending it off for sequencing so we can look at the different lineages.
Sequencing the genetic code of the virus can even tell you which variants you're dealing with. Professor Davy Jones from Bangor University.
And I think what it'll be able office to do is essentially provide an early warning system for the emergence of these new variants, track where they are and track their spread.
The plan now is to roll out testing across many more sites at sewage outflow points outside schools, prisons and hospitals, even large office blocks.
That report by Tom Fielden.